Love in the Time of Cholera. By Gabriel Garcia Marquez. Gabriel Garcia Marquez. Gabriel Garcia Marquez, a Colombian novelist, short story writer, screenwriter, and journalist, was born on March 6, 1927 in Aracataca, Colombia. Had his formal education and spent first years of high school in the Colegio Jesuita San Jose, where he published his first poems in the school magazine Juventud. After graduation he studied law at Universidad Nacional de Colombia. He began his career as a journalist while studying law. The international reputation was earned after publishing his novel 100 Years of Solitude. His works are notable for popularizing the literary style, magical realism. In 1982 he won the Nobel Prize in Literature. He died of pneumonia at the age of 87 on April 17, 2014. Love in the Time of Cholera. First published in Spanish in 1985. English translation was published by Alfred A Knopf in 1988. Story took place in an unnamed port city somewhere near the Caribbean Sea and the Magdalena River in Colombia. It took place approximately between 1880 and early 1930s. It is a sentimental story about the enduring power of true love. Characters: Fermina Daza, wife of Dr. Urbino, Florentino's love. Dr. Juvenal Urbino, husband of Fermina. Florentino Ariza, person who loved Fermina. Lorenzo Daza, father of Fermina. Transito Ariza, mother of Florentino. Jeremiah de Saint-Amour, photographer and chess player. Aunt Escolastica, aunt of Fermina. Hildebranda Sanchez, cousin of Fermina. Leona Cassiani, to whom Florentino got a job. Lacides Olivella, friend of Dr. Urbino. Lotario Thagut, violin teacher of Florentino. Euclides, a swimmer. Gala Placida, servant of Fermina. Don Leo XII Loaza, uncle of Florentino. Rosalba, a lady who took away the virginity of Florentino. Nazareth, a widow who stayed in Florentino's house. Ausencia Santander, colleague of Florentino. Sara Noriega, a poet. Dona Blanca, mother-in-law of Fermina. Olympia, young girl who was killed by her husband. Miss Barbara Lynch, young girl. America Vicuna, young girl. Prudencia Pitri, a lady. Lucretia, young maid. Summary. The novel opens with Dr. Juvenal Urbino found the body of Jeremiah de Saint-Amour, who was an Antillean refugee. A police inspector came with a medical student who has completed forensic training to examine the gold cyanide attack. Juvenal read the last letter and the amount for the funeral and the burial was at 5. The author has given the description of Jeremiah, who has spent 81 years, and how he overcame cholera in Paris. Urbino recollected the past events, including playing chess, that happened between him and Jeremiah. He recollected the events happened in the previous night when Jeremiah and his love went for a movie at Don de Conte. The incidents which happened before the death of Jeremiah were discussed by Urbino and the love of Jeremiah. Independence from Spain and the abolition of slavery precipitated the conditions in which Dr. Juvenal Urbino had been born and raised. In the 18th century the commerce of the city had been most prosperous in the Caribbean. On Friday, June 8, 1709, the galleon San Jose was sunk by an English squadron, which made the city drowned in memories. Across the bay, in the residential district of La Manga, Dr. Juvenal Urbino's house stood. Urbino notes that two unusual events took place at that time: the death of Jeremiah and the silver jubilee of Lacides Olivella, one of his medical pupils. After visiting the love of Saint Jeremiah, Urbino returned home to find his servants struggling to catch his parrot, which escaped and flew to the highest branch of a mango tree. The writer indicates the animals and the pets such as parrot, monkey, and anaconda which were there in that home. Urbino tried to catch the parrot, and from the ladder he fell down, and that was the end of his life. His death marked a significant loss to the city. 3 days of mourning was declared for him, and several arrangements were made to grieve for his death. A death mask was created by a group from the School of Fine Arts, and an artist painted Urbino's fatal move with stunning reality, and the same was kept in the School of Fine Arts. The body was kept in the house and Fermina Daza was in complete self-control. She later removed the wedding band and placed on the finger of her dead husband. Florentino Ariza, the president of the River Company of Caribbean, was there in the funeral. He was dressed in black and he cared a lot to conceal his 76 years of age. He was little sad as he was not recognized by Fermina. It was raining during the funeral and Florentino caught pneumonia as he was drenched. While bidding farewell to the mourners, Fermina saw Florentino and she was pleased. Fermina orders him to go out of the house and she sobs. Next morning she realized that she had thought of Florentino than her husband for the whole night. Florentino was the only son of Transito Ariza. His father died when he was 10 years old and was taught by Lotario Thagut to play violin. Florentino made himself the most desired man in the society and he played well till he met Fermina. Florentino first met Fermina in the Park of Evangels while he went to deliver a telegram to her father Lorenzo Daza. Fermina was giving a reading lesson to her aunt Escolastica. Florentino learned that Fermina is 13 years old and was studying at the Academy of the Presentation of the Blessed Virgin. He came to know that Fermina was named after her dead mother. Every morning Florentino visited the park and sat on a bench pretending reading in order to see Fermina crossing him. Aunt Escolastica observed him waiting there and stated that to Fermina and she was not interested as he looks sick. Transito advised Florentino not to deliver the letter he has written to Fermina. One day Florentino gave the letter and Fermina told that she cannot accept it without the permission of her father. The letter is not an epic statement but a note of half-page. Florentino was waiting for the reply and he was suffering emotionally and physically. His grandfather diagnosed him with cholera and he almost lost his job with the postal agency. Lotario spent nights around the port and slept with prostitutes. He asked Florentino to do the same to get rid of the pain he was having because of the love he had with Fermina. As there was no reply for a long time from Fermina, Florentino went to the house of Fermina. He spoke her and later through her aunt he got the reply. They started speaking and wrote letters daily. He played the violin for his crowned goddess, Fermina, and was arrested at that time as he was accused as a spy who sends messages via his serenades and spent 3 nights in jail. After 2 years Florentino sent a formal marriage proposal. He did not receive response for 4 months and later got the consent on one condition that he must not make her eat eggplant. Transito too accepted his wedding on 2 conditions. Lotario got a new job for Florentino in a hotel where a room was allotted for him to stay. One day a cleaning woman forced to have sex with her which he refused as he was maintaining the virginity for Fermina. The Mother Superior caught Fermina writing love letter and was expelled from the academy. The love was known to Lorenzo and he was in a huge rage and sent Aunt Escolastica to her birthplace. Fermina locks herself in her room and refused to eat or drink and once she held a knife in her neck and asked Lorenzo not to challenge her. This made Lorenzo to visit Florentino at the telegraph office. He warned him to stop the relationship and if not he will shoot him, but Florentino challenged him. Lorenzo took Fermina on a long journey to forget him. They visited her maternal uncle in Valladolid where she met Hildebranda Sanchez who was also consumed by tragic love. Florentino got the travel itinerary from Lorzo's brother and contacted Fermina through secret telegraphs. Lorenzo decided that Fermina has forgotten her love and so he decided to return home. Florentino seek the help of Euclides, a young swimmer to take the treasure from a sunken ship. He brought back the women jewelry which was tested by his mother and was told those were not real. Fermina, now 16 years old, was taking care of the household. Florentino met Fermina along with her servant Gala Placida. On seeing him she thought she is foolish in loving him and asked him to forget her as she felt their love as an illusion. She returned everything Florentino sent and asked him to do the same. Transito spoke to Fermina but of no use. Dr. Urbino was the most desired man as he returned from Paris completing his study in advanced medicine and surgery. He was saddened of the situation of his city which was affected by cholera and his father too died before 6 years. Dr. Urbino fell in love with Fermina when he went her house to examine the symptoms of cholera. Lorenzo hoped that he may arrange romance between him and Fermina. Urbino visited often and Lorenzo gave the first lesson of chess. Urbino seeks the help of the Mother Superior to convince Fermina, and she presented a gold rosary to her. Hildebrand returned, and with Fermina they went out with Urbino, and later Fermina consented to speak to her father. Florentino was totally destroyed, and his mother pleaded his uncle Don Leo XII Loaza to get him a job in a faraway place. Florentino heard of the cholera outbreak in another ship, and in his travel he was forced by a woman who took away his chastity. He felt that the woman was Rosalba, and he felt his love for Fermina is replaceable by mortal passion. Florentino thought that Fermina must be for none, and he returned to identify she was in her honeymoon trip to Europe. Thoughts of Rosalba flashed often, which made the thought of Fermina to gradually dissipate from the mind of Florentino. Transito tried to make Florentino to fall in love with a widow Nazareth who stayed in his house as her house was destroyed. That day he had sex with her, and later she slept with many men who will have her, and thanked Florentino for that. Florentino slept with many women and had a note of it, as it stated he has encountered 622 serious relationships. Fermina, now 6 months pregnant, returned from Europe. Florentino saw her and decided to earn the status necessary to deserve her, but for that Urbino must die. He got a job as a clerk in River Company of the Caribbean. His language was poetic, and so he offered his service as a poet to the people in the marketplace. Later he compiled a book titled Lover's Companion. He met his colleague Ausencia Santander and had an affair with her. There was a theft in the house of Ausencia, and after that Florentino stopped visiting her often. Then he met another woman, Leona Cassiani, and misunderstood her as a whore, but she asked for a job and he got her a lowest level job in the River Company. Leona was promoted in the company and she was working there for 10 years. Urbino visited the office, and Florentino thought to keep the secret of his love towards Fermina and thought he can be happy only after the death of Urbino. Florentino lost the poetry contest, and the Golden Orchid prize for poetry was won by a Chinese immigrant. Sara Noriega consoled Florentino for his loss, and she asked him to dine with her, and they slept together. They had their relationship for 5 years. Florentino found Fermina, who is aged and has changed. Fermina was not satisfied after the marriage, as she was tormented by her mother-in-law Dona Blanca. She found solace in her father's home and feel the presence of Florentino in the park. Urbino insisted a revisit to Europe to revive their marriage. Florentino encountered Olympia, and on seeing the inscription on Olympia's belly by Florentino, her husband killed her. Florentino's mother died and was buried where many cholera victims were buried. Fermina wished to see her birthplace after giving birth to second child, but was not able to visit as it was a land ridden with cholera. Fermina left to live with Hildebranda in another village. Fermina came to know about the affair of Urbino with 27-year-old Miss Barbara Lynch. Fermina was convinced by the confessions made by Urbino. Florentino became the president and manager of the River Company, and at that time he was in affair with Andrea Varon. At the time of the death of Urbino, Florentino was having affair with America Vicuna, but he went directly to Urbino's house and repeated his vow of eternal fidelity and everlasting love. Fermina was not able to tolerate her widowhood, and after 3 weeks she became little better. Florentino thought to move to America Vicuna or to Leona to relieve his suffering, but visited Prudencia Pitri. Florentino and Fermina had some letter correspondence, and Florentino was satisfied with a most rational letter he penned. 1 year after Urbino's death, Florentino attended the memorial mass in the doctor's honor. Fermina thanked him, and later, after receiving a handwritten letter from him, she asked opinion from Lucretia. Florentino was accepted to visit Fermina, and each encounter reminded the past youth of them. Florentino received a telegram from Leona that America Vicuna has committed suicide. Florentino recollected how he has longed for Fermina for over a half-century and wrote verse only for her. Florentino took Fermina in a ship and they got united there. He ordered to reject all the passengers because of cholera, and only Laurentino, Fermina, the captain, and his lover remain aboard, and no port will allow them ashore from the exile forever. For more videos, like, share, subscribe. Thank you.